today we will begin with a simple topic, a simple phrase that I would like to say, and that is cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war, for the Spartan is coming. The victory of wolves is nigh, the storm is breaking, the steel is bright. We will not go quietly until the darkness of night. Yeah, I know I'm stealing a lot from Shakespeare, from a variety of people. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to call Shakespeare in my slightly different universe yet. You may see, having a look through The Victory of Wolves, I have taken some liberties and some inventiveness with the names of, well, famous people, famous scientists. You may notice that Albert Einstein has appeared, and a variety of others. It's what's made this book itself so difficult to write. The authenticity, the actual making the history believable, and considering what would have happened if the hegemony had have taken place and became real as it was. Because one must think this: if the hegemony took place and became, as the books state, the Roman Empire would never have existed. Everything that happened from the day Alexander was supposed to die onward will have happened differently. All the influences that led to nations and people and places having the names they did and the way they were no longer happened. Different influences would have taken place. There would be Hellenization, of course. There would be homogenization. There would be hegemony. And there will be and I've got to do some work with this, and maybe if someone out there wants to do it, you are welcome to play around. You real historians and linguists, play around with the argot of the army, what becomes hegemonic standard Greek. Play around with it and see what you can come up with, because it's not going to be Greek. As you can probably see, it's going to be Persian, it's going to be Indian, it's going to be Greek, it's going to be Celtic. It is going to be every nation in existence at the time when Alexander crossed from what would be considered Tibet to China and back, ending eventually in Ireland before returning to Alexandria the First to found his empire. And then, of course, there's a lot more to it than that. But I found The Victory of Wolves was probably the hardest book I have written so far, the hardest part of the series for me to actually make believable and real, because this one involves a lot of real history. It involves some backstory to Lupernikes the Spartan. It involves true people who exist in our world, but are a little different, at least in their names, than the ones we're used to. It also involves a world that developed a little bit differently because of the hegemony, because of the great hegemon, and because of the army, the Dracograth, the Kalshodar, and everybody who just marched through their lands and changed everything without meaning to. The entire of history as we know it from the day Alexander died didn't happen. That's what these books are talking about. And I've even gone as far as to bring one of the other great changing forces of our world into these books, and that is Yeshua ben Joshua, or as we know him, Jesus Christ, though he never became Jesus Christ because his name was never Romanized. He became known as Yeshua the Christoman in the argot of the Macedonians and of the invading empire, pretty much. And some of the conversations, the meetings between him and Alexander's reaction to his death. Because his death, it had to happen. That's what he was here for. And that's one thing I decided to leave in. Rather than having Jesus live to a ripe old age, he came here to die. The history which led to his death changed, but he's going to die all the same. It's absolutely essentially important that he dies. It's part of who he is. And it's even made a mention of with the story of Kaliades, that he asks Alexander to let him die, because that is his purpose. But the deepest thing that reveals in all of this, in all this story and everything, is it shows a human side to Alexander, to that great historical and distant figure, because he reacts. He leaves the hegemony, he disappears because of the death of Jesus Christ. His friend, his deep friend, someone who could understand him, someone who knew what it was like to be him, was gone among a great number of other people who he developed an attachment and a love for. So it was a great undoing, a great coming down of this distant and impossible to understand character, to make him human and to make people around him human. I even had an inspiration along the line for Lupernikes, someone who was from childhood raised not to express or even feel emotion, to not be affected by death, to actually look forward to his own death almost. How he looks at Alexander's reaction to the death of people he loves. It was a really good, I feel, comparison, an opposite, a paradox of how things actually happened. And that's what made this book hard. The historical accuracy, the depth of emotion in the people, and how characters have developed. Because I didn't want my characters to become tropes or to become just wooden cutouts of characters. I wanted them to be real. I need them to be real. It's important that they're real. And I feel this has happened. Sham has changed from a throwaway character who no one really cared too much about to a central character, and his emotional and intellectual state and his spiritual state are greatly explored in this book too. And it moves me back to one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that was that people have laughed about this recently. Comments have been made, jokes have been made. Why is it that when your characters are involved in great story shaping and shifting dialogue, are they always eating? And I don't know. People found it hilarious in the last book, Scanda Draco, that the most important scenes in the book happened when the main characters of the book, the soldiers as they were enjoying modern Dominican cuisine in the kitchen in a hotel or drinking. In this book, The Victory of Wolves, you will discover Sham's love of the lamb stew that unexpectedly Lupernikes is very good at cooking, and it becomes his favorite food, and it becomes the thing that bonds these two very disparate characters together. The joker, the humorous, the irreverent Sham, and the straight-laced and staid Lupernikes, who is described as making Calyades look relaxed. But it also, this book will show how Lupernikes will change through the stresses of his life, through the changes he witnesses, through his studies, through his responsibilities as hegemon, as a stand-in hegemon, as a steward. So by the end of the book, the character of Lupernikes is not going to be the same man the book began with. And that's obviously, that's normal, that's going to happen. But also Alexander is not the same either. Alexander becomes a believable, lovable, and likable human being, because that's what you have to remember. He had that charisma, he had that power about him that made people follow him. Why? And that's what I wanted to really look into here. Now, I want to stir up some debate about this. Look at your characterization and tell me how it is that your characters make you love them. What it is about them that makes you want to like them, whether they're the lovable rogue, the confused and stubborn soldier, the distant hegemon who has to be something like unto a god and less and more than a man, but still feels like the rest of us do. And I hope I've done it well, and I hope I've done it subtly, and I hope you're going to enjoy this one. And I tell you now, Nesha is in progress, it has been begun, and you're going to like this one too. This one is going to go even deeper into the spiritual aspect of things and really give depth to a character who I feel hasn't had a fair enough crack of the whip in this series yet, but he's coming. You're going to like Nesha. He's going to be interesting. He's going to give you things that you didn't expect of him. And he's going to give depth to some stories and some depth to Alexander and even Sham perhaps that you weren't ready for. But Sham is taking a bit more of a back seat in this story. But you'll see. I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this. And again, Thank you for watching again this week. This is Alan J. Fisher signing off. And, oh, by the way, take a look at my website. I've made a few changes which I'm sure you're going to love. Have a great week, guys. Bye.